It's just this very high expectation when it comes to Disney. They're paying a lot of money for that, so they have a very high expectation, as they should. When I got this assignment, I was like, what the heck is this? I'm attractions, I'm quick service, I'm merchandise, I'm PhotoPass, and you're the only one and you don't know anybody else who has this role.
So what is Disney's bellhop, service, dispatch, and greeter role in the Disney College program? It's hard for me to even keep that full title in my mind. That was the exact same question that my roommate from the Disney College program asked herself when she got placed in this role. She had no idea what to expect. There wasn't a lot of information about it online. That's why her and I are going to sit down together and talk about her experiences in this role to give you guys a little bit more information about it and to get you guys excited about this lesser known role in the Disney College program. Welcome, Caitlin.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. You can follow me on Instagram at khoof13.
I have Caitlin here with me, who is in Bellhop Services Dispatch. What's the actual official title of this role?
I believe it is Bell Services Dispatcher and Greeter. So I was in the dispatcher side of things. I know some people do the greeter side, but I was just dispatch.
A lot of people are not very familiar with this role. I know when you got this role, you were like, what does this mean? So will you just kind of give us a brief overview of what this role is?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like you said, when I got this assignment, I was like, what the heck is this? What am I getting myself into? But it ended up being really cool. So I worked in the resorts. I worked at Coronado Springs Resort. Back in 2019, things may have changed around there. I know a lot has changed at Coronado. They were doing renovations when I was there. This is what my experience was. I spent half of my shift up in the lobby at the bell stand, which at the time was right across the lobby from the main front desk. I would greet guests there when they came in. And a lot of times people would just be sort of lost, so I would be answering questions and giving directions. Oftentimes people thought that I was able to check them in, which unfortunately I did not have the capabilities to do. So a lot of times people would come see me and be like, hey, can we check in? And I'd be like, no, I'm sorry, you have to wait in that line over there. They wouldn't be too pleased about that, which is understandable. So there's a lot of saying no to people and a lot of answering random questions. I would also take people's luggage there. I had a cart by my station, and then we would send it down to the luggage room where I would spend the second half of my shift, or vice versa. Down there I would be answering the phones and taking calls and putting in the orders into the computer and assigning them to the bellman who would go out and complete the orders. At the time, Disney's Magical Express was still a thing, RIP. But we were involved with that as well. So for those of you who don't know, Disney's Magical Express was a complimentary service that when you arrive at the airport, DME collects your checked bags and brings them to the resort. So when you arrive in your room, your bags are magically there, and it was a very wonderful thing. They also provided buses for guests to take from the airport to the resorts. So on our end of things, we would get the luggage in these big cages. They would come off the truck, and so we would unload all the luggage and scan it in. The bellman would scan them, and we would sort them, and the dispatcher would assign them to the bellman, and they would bring them to the rooms. And yeah, it was a really cool experience, and it was cool to see the behind the scenes of how all of that worked.
RIP indeed to the Disney Magical Express. It was such a beautiful part of going to Disney. So you knew you were going to be working at the resorts. They don't have any of these roles at any of the parks. So what do you think the differences might be in working in Disney resorts and like Disney parks?
I mean, there's definitely pros and cons to every role, but I did really like working in the resorts. It sort of gave me a separation between work and play. Some people, Grace, you have experienced that when you're working in the park, and then it's like, I don't really want to go to Magic Kingdom today. I just spent all day working here. I want to go someplace else, or maybe I just want to hang out at home today. But for me, I was like, I never get to go to the parks. It just was only fun and magic and play for me there. So I liked having that separation, but I was still able to be a part of the making magic process and be able to create magical moments for guests in the resorts. Each resort is different, of course, and the one that I worked at, Coronado Springs, had a lot of conventions and a lot of business guests. So we saw a lot more of those as compared to families, like maybe you would see at Art of Animation or Pop Century, places like that. So it was definitely a different experience there as well. So I really loved anytime we had families come through and just making those first moments on Disney property as magical as possible for them. The con would be I didn't feel as connected with other college program kids. I feel like in a lot of the roles, like quick service food and beverage and attractions, a lot of those roles are solely run by college program interns. My role, it was me and one other CP. We were never scheduled really at the same time. When we were scheduled together, it was a lot of fun. She and I got along very well, and so we had a blast when we got to work together. Most of the other workers were, as I like to say, real adults, and so they weren't, like little 20-year-old me. I felt a little out of place there. Didn't make as many connections as some of my roommates who worked in the parks and were constantly around other college kids at work. I felt like you guys had these groups at work and I didn't have that. But again, there are pros and cons to every role, and I really did enjoy working in the resorts. I thought it was a magical experience.
I had no idea, or maybe I just don't remember since it's been so long that you only had one other CP with you. What was your training process like for this role?
First, I had traditions, and then we had another day at Disney University that was sort of you go from traditions, which is like everybody, and then there was another day, and this one was more specific to just like resort workers in general. And it's not just CPs there, it was like other new cast members as well. Saludos amigos at Coronado Springs, which again was sort of like all of the new hires. So there's a group of us, and that's where I met my friends, the international exchange student that worked at the front desk. And we got a tour of the property and just sort of a general welcome to the resort. Then I got to meet the team and the specific bell service team and learned about the difference in roles between the bellmen, the dispatchers such as myself, and then the greeters who would stand outside the resort and welcome and do a similar role. Of course, we're all under the bell services umbrella, but they had a little bit different of a role as well. I started at the desk and learned about the computer system there and how to put in orders and different types of orders, how to answer the phones, and just a lot of shadowing at first. And then, of course, gradually doing more of it myself. We went to the luggage room and would do the same thing there. Then eventually, I feel like a lot of it was learning on the fly. People would have questions, and I would be like, I'm not sure. Let me check on that for you. And so I would sort of learn along with the guests.
What would you say? I know you gave us some pros and cons and things, but what would you say are your favorite and least favorite parts about working in this role?
I loved working in the luggage room because it was kind of like a backstage type area. Guests weren't allowed back there. So you could kind of let your guard down a little bit. And a lot of times the bellmen, when they weren't out doing runs, they would just hang out in the luggage room. And so there was a lot of goofing around that happened there and just a lot of fun. And that's where I made a lot of connections because it got a little lonely at the bell stand, just sort of standing there waiting for people to come ask me questions. Love making magical moments. I have one specific guest in mind. So the bell stand was right across the lobby from the main front desk. And I did make a friend who was working at the front desk. She was an international exchange student. She flagged me down one day and was like, can you come and help me with this guest? And I was like, I don't know why you need my help, but okay. It was because she knew that I was taking American Sign Language and this guest was deaf. And I was like, hey, I've only taken one semester of ASL. I don't really know anything, but I'll do my best. She was from Brazil. So she was deaf and she was from Brazil. So she didn't use American Sign Language, used a different sign language between the front desk worker and the guest and myself and Google Translate. We sort of made it work to try to communicate and get her to her room. She ended up coming to find me the next day, and I worked with the concierge to help her get set up with restaurant reservations and things like that. Many guests will plan those in advance, but she was not able to do that and wasn't able to make a phone call to get a reservation. So the concierge and I helped her get that set up. And so she came to visit me every day during her trip. When I was not working, we were able to exchange contact information. And so I'm friends with her on Facebook and we still keep in touch to this day. And she comments on all of my Instagram posts. She's the absolute sweetest. And so that was super magical for me. Other guests as well that I worked with that really impacted me almost more, I think, than I impacted them. Those were the biggest pros for me. Cons were difficult guests. I think we all experienced that. It's just this very high expectation when it comes to Disney. People know the level of excellence and they know they're paying a lot of money for that. So they have a very high expectation, as they should. And sometimes things are just out of your control and just don't go right. And sometimes you're that cast member that just gets the brunt of that frustration from that guest. And you just sort of have to put on your brave face and remember that it's not about you and it's not personal. And that's how you're helping the guest, is by letting them vent. So that was definitely a lesson that I learned. And a con for me was just dealing with those difficult moments and then also just trying to find connections with other cast members.
Do you have any advice for someone who got this role, just got on the CP, and they're nervous or they're not sure what to expect?
For anybody doing the Disney College program, my mantra going into it was be brave. And that's something that I still think about to this day and that I learned a lot during my time there. And especially in a role like this, where you go to these housing events and you're meeting your roommates and people are sharing, I'm attractions, I'm quick service, I'm merchandise, I'm PhotoPass. And you're the only one and you don't know anybody else who has this role. Just know that you are not alone. It can be very scary and overwhelming, but you are not alone. It will be so magical and wonderful and so unique. Don't be afraid to ask questions and don't be afraid to put yourself out there. During your college program, it's such a short period of time and there's such high turnover with these college kids. They know that you're not going to know what you're doing, and that's okay. So just be brave, take a deep breath, and enjoy it.
I feel like this is a role that if your major is hospitality, this might be a fantastic thing to have on your resume.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a family friend who did the college program this previous spring, and she is a hospitality major, and she was the same role as well. So we connected a lot last fall. She had a lot of questions for me. I stayed at Coronado Springs the whole time, but she sort of hopped around between resorts, which is, I didn't even know that was a thing you can do. And I don't know if that was just part of her job or what, but she would do like Animal Kingdom Lodge for a week, and then she would do a different resort for a week. And it was very interesting to hear about the difference in her experience, even though we had the same job. I know that for hospitality, whether it's housekeeping or bell services or front desk, any sort of experience in Disney resorts is going to be huge and it's going to be a great experience.
What are your thoughts on Coronado Resort in general?
I loved it. I had never actually heard of Coronado Springs before I was assigned there. Growing up, my family would stay at Port Orleans French Quarter. It's a huge resort. The property is actually the same size as the Magic Kingdom property. It's huge. There's the main building and there's a lake in the middle, and then all the guest rooms are in buildings around the lake. So it is gorgeous there. At the top of the Grand Destino Tower, you can see the fireworks from all four parks up there. So I've heard. So
Is there anything else that you want to share about this role?
if anybody is going into this and has been given the role of bell services dispatcher and greeter and you don't know what to expect, be brave, take a deep breath, and enjoy it because it's going to be great and it's going to be unique and fun.
Thank you, Caitlin. Give Caitlin lots of love in the comments section down below. Make sure to follow her on Instagram, and we will catch you all later.
I feel like I learned so much about this role because I was in the dark about it as well. It was something that I hadn't heard of before. So I'm really thankful for Caitlin. Thank you so much for doing this video with me. Let me know down below what your guys' dream role is in the Disney College program. I would love to chat with you guys there. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a magical night, and I will talk to you all next time. Bye!